He is going to be a serious figure intellectually.
He's not a serious figure as long as he allows himself to be castrated by Grover Norquist.
Welcome to NewsBeast Live. We've got Howard Kurtz and Robert Zimmerman in the house. This is a good day for a political panel.
Absolutely.
So we've got huge Ted Cruz double-digit win down in Texas, the Tea Party candidate upsetting the insurgent lieutenant governor. And then on the Democratic side, we've got Julian Castro, 37-year-old mayor of San Antonio, going to be giving the keynote. Two big developments in politics. Demographics are destiny. The parties are reaching out to the Latino vote. But let's talk Ted Cruz first. Howard, what was your takeaway on this?
The media have been a little too quick to write the obituary of the Tea Party. Obviously, it still has influence. Ted Cruz was backed by Sarah Palin, whereas David Dewhurst, the incumbent lieutenant governor, who's quite conservative himself,
yes,
but maybe not quite as far to the right, was backed by Rick Perry. And so this is a development that shows that that grassroots revolt is not over.
Not at all.
It's evolved to the point where you've got two kinds of Republicans. Republicans who are either getting out of Congress or those who are trying to accommodate the Tea Party agenda to stay in Congress. And
there's no middle ground?
There's no middle ground, and that's the problem with this whole dynamic. In fact, speaking of a lack of middle ground, the greatest attack ad used against Dewhurst in the primary was the Freedom for Growth.
Club for Growth.
Club for Growth. They ran an ad saying that, for quoting the Dallas Morning Star, saying that Dewhurst was a moderate. And that was the threat.
That's the big sin. And what's fascinating is that he's a very conservative guy.
Exactly.
Our Paul Begala had a great column about that today, just about if a guy like David Dewhurst or if Rick Perry is all of a sudden seen as a beard for the rhinos, then you got a real problem when it comes to rational discourse.
And the national message behind this, though, is that if you're looking to see the Republican Party compete nationally, a victory like Murdoch's in Indiana and Cruz in Texas really means the party's moving off the center of the stage to the far right. And if you hope any sort of accommodation in Congress for future legislative achievements, you're done.
The 2010 elections saw a lot of very conservative Tea Party type Republicans win nominations and then lose in the general. Since we're talking about the very red state of Texas here, I don't think there's any doubt, any danger of that happening, John.
That's right. And Cruz is going to be a serious figure in American politics for a long time to come for that reason. This is a serious guy. In any other election cycle, he could be the establishment candidate. This is the founder of the Harvard Latino Law Review. This is a former Solicitor General of the state of Texas. He is going to be a serious figure intellectually.
He's not a serious figure as long as he allows himself to be castrated by Grover Norquist.
Well, we don't know that. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, in fairness.
Guy hasn't even taken the oath of office.
But we know what his agenda is and we know what his rhetoric is.
But interesting in terms of Latino politics, now you see the Democrats trying to counter with Julian Castro. Being named the chairman of the Democratic Convention. Very attractive mayor of San Antonio. Probably the Democrats would like him to be the next Marco Rubio. Small problem. Even most of the political insiders have never heard of this guy.
That's right. I mean, he was 37 years old. He's the youngest mayor of a top 50 state, but he's very, very impressive. And this is a guy who I think people have been buzzing about for a while, someone who's really implementing ideas on the ground. As we see so often in our politics, the cities really are the laboratories of policy innovation and new ideas. But this is a bold, out-of-the-box move, really is akin to John Kerry picking then-candidate Barack Obama in 2004.
And the great news about the choice is the political insiders don't know who he is. And that's an advantage because he brings in a totally fresh dynamic. And John, your point's absolutely correct. If you look at where we have economic growth in our country, it's in the urban areas, it's in regions where government and business cooperate together. And I think he represents a whole laboratory of new ideas, not just a message to a new demographic.
One of the failings of the press is that we cover politics and not governing. And so there are a lot of smart, in both parties, governors and mayors doing important work that don't make the national radar. The question here is, in this media-saturated age, can simply making a speech or being the chairman of the convention boost Julian Castro to household name status and make him the kind of star the Democrats would clearly like him to be in this election?
Or win a statewide race in Texas. Tough going for any Democrat.
It's important to remember that Barack Obama was not Barack Obama in 2004. It took him a number of years to get to become the Barack Obama that we know and rallied behind. But for Julian Castro, this is an enormous opportunity, as it is for the mayor of Los Angeles, Villaraigosa, because they now get to network and present themselves to future donors, grassroots supporters, and party activists.
Well, it's a sign. Both parties are actively reaching out to Latino voters. In this case, with Ted Cruz winning in the Senate, I mean, there is a growing number of statewide elected figures Republicans have put forward who are not their kind of stereotypical white bread candidate, whether it's the governor of Nevada, Bryce Sandoval, Susana Martinez, Marco Rubio. Now Ted Cruz is added to that list, and Bobby Jindal and Nikki Haley.
And yet you've got at the top of the ticket Mitt Romney, who used some very harsh anti-immigration language in the primaries, which is why he's polling so poorly among Hispanic voters. And that, I think, is going to be a problem. I think Republicans know that will be a problem in this general election.
I think it's also an important point to draw the distinction between Cuban Americans versus Mexican Americans versus Central
It's
Americans.
not all one melting pot.
Exactly
That's right.
right. And I think both parties make a mistake when they try to look at these groups and do almost a cartoon interpretation of what they respond to. Ultimately, it's the policies of the nominees that is going to drive the electorate in this election.
And fascinatingly, both Castro and Cruz are actually of Cuban descent.
Right.
In Texas. Anyway, fascinating development in politics. These are two individuals who are going to be around for a long time. It's really a sign of things to come for the convention. Final word, Howie.
Latinos, that seems to be where the action is.
All right.
Extreme right, 2 words.
Really?
Absolutely.
I don't know that's the takeaway. We'll go Cruz Castro. We'll fight for that. Thanks for joining us for NewsBeast Live. We'll see you tomorrow.